Hi guys, today we're going to be working on this 36 horsepower Bosch generator, and all Bosch components are stamped with a date code, and this one says 5P, which equals to 5 of 1958. So that's pretty close to our 1956 oval barn find project that this will be going on. This should be the last component until we get to the engine build, hopefully. This is what they call a thin slot generator. This has a real thin slot here. This here is a later one. You can see how much bigger the cooling slot is and access to the brushes. And it's also, the later one is a 180. I believe that's watts. And this is a 160. So you want to make sure that you use the 160 with a 160 regulator that sits up on top of here. So we'll go ahead and take this apart. The bearings feel pretty bad. I do have a set of bearings, so we can press new ones in. We'll just clean this up. I'm probably not going to plate this housing. This is a lot to plate. So we'll probably just clean it up. Maybe hit it with a clear coat or something to just protect it. I do have new brushes. We'll put new brushes in. Like I said, new bearings. And we'll clean all this up. We'll clean up the fans, sandblast those, paint them. The pulley, we'll also sandblast. We had some little bit of dings to fix. And you want to make sure you use the correct 36 horsepower pulley. That's a little bit smaller than this is the 40 here. And you can see how it's a little bit larger. The 40 horsepower will fit on here, but it'll spin it slower, so you get less airflow. So you really want to use the 36 horsepower correct pulley that goes with this fan. This here is the 40 horsepower fan, and you can see how the difference in the blades. There's much more blades on the 40 horsepower, so it cools a lot better. So that's how they can run it a little slower with this larger pulley. You can put the 40 horsepower fan on here. It will fit, and it might offer a little better cooling, but we're just going to go with the stock setup here. So that's what's on the agenda for today. Okay, so we'll take this fan off. This has been off. It's kind of loose. Usually this 36 millimeter nut is on here, but it's been taken off before. That's the fan. One shim. There's shims on here to shim it away from the fan shroud. When we put it all together, we'll do that. And then this here is a sleeve kind of thing. And this is usually on there really tight. What I usually do is take a slide hammer. I have a slide hammer that connects to a vice grips. And you just put a vice grips on here. You can use a slide hammer to take it off, or like a 3-jaw puller can take this off also. We're just going to try to tap that a little bit and see if we can pull it. Oh, it just came off. So that's a little collar thing. It's on there with a woodruff key. And these are 10 millimeter bolts. Looks like one is kind of loose. Take our 10 millimeter nuts. We'll take those off, and then this plate will come off. And there is like a retaining ring on here, which I'm surprised is on here. And this just comes off. That will sandblast and paint. And then we're down to just the bare generator. So we'll start with taking these two bolts off. They're real long. Here's the ends of them. They go all the way through the entire generator. And that basically holds it together. So we'll take it over to the vise and get those off. Got the soft jaws in the vise. And these are the screws here we're after. Now we can take it over to the bench and tap these end caps off. First thing we'll do is tap these keys out of here. Washers off. There's a key on this side too. We should be able to get these caps off. It's actually coming apart relatively easy, which I don't know is good or bad. I don't know if someone's been in here. So there's the armature. And the windings are kind of coming apart, so I guess we're going to have to take those out and we'll rewrap them. All right, so after further inspection, this nose of this cap here has been ground down. It's supposed to look like this here. And it looks like the pulley must have been riding on that and ground it down through this top of this plate. So luckily, I have an extra one. So I have to get this out. We have to start by taking these large bolts off here. And there's one, you don't want to forget this one. There's one screw down in here. That little one there. That goes to right here. So, oh, that pulls right off then. So we'll go ahead and clean this one up. Okay, to get this out here, I have a homemade tool. It's a chisel. Just grounded a slot into it where it fits into there. And this chisel then can go onto an impact, 13 millimeter. It just fits on there like that. And then we'll go ahead and try to impact it off. And it's a block like that that holds the field windings on, tight up against the case. Okay, so I have this back on the bench here, and this is the post that these wires are peened onto. It looks like this has actually been soldered here, so I bet this was rebuilt. Because normally there's not solder on here, it's just peened together, pinched these two wires in there, and this is all disintegrating, this insulation. This was insulated here. So we'll go ahead and get a soldering iron on there and see if we can desolder that, and that'll let these field windings loose. You can kind of see down in there, they're in pretty rough shape. Okay, I was able to get these wires removed from the terminal there. One ear broke off, but we are going to solder this back together, so it should be okay. We do have to cut this flag terminal off, and then we can pull it through the housing and get these field windings out. Okay, this terminal here, that broke off when we were taking the wires off. Looks like the other side is also cracked, so I don't want to take a chance of this coming apart with the generator running. So what I'm going to do is replace this piece. We'll grind this end off here, and we can use a brass machine screw to go through here, and then we'll put a nut on this end securing this terminal piece down, and then we can put the wires on, and then another nut to secure those wires in there. So that's what we'll do now, is take that apart. So here we have the piece here, and it's insulated through the body of the generator here, and also against here, and then these are insulating pieces out here. So it's fully insulated. This piece is fully insulated from the base, the case, general case of the generator. Okay, so I just ground this piece off at the bench grinder. Okay, we'll clean this up and get a game plan on rewrapping these, and we'll put a new wire on here. This wire here goes out to the regulator. So I'm going to go ahead and press this plate off the armature and take a look at those bearings. I wasn't going to replace them, but I think I'm going to look at them. Yeah, they're pretty grimy. We'll get them all cleaned, re-greased. They are smooth though, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I have this small bearing separator attached to the underside of the bearing. We're going to try to push the armature through the bearing and remove it. And it's not under a lot of tension. See it released pretty easily. And there it is. So we're going to go ahead and clean up the armature in the ultrasonic cleaner with some degreaser. Diluted 4:1. This is ZEP, and it's safe on aluminum. So it won't eat up the any of the windings or anything in there. Any of the copper. It won't be corrosive on the copper. So into the ZEP it goes. Okay, so the armature has been in the ultrasonic cleaner for half an hour. Pull it out and it looks like that. It's clean between all the windings. All the dirt and grime is gone. Now what we have to do is we'll rinse this off and just clean tap water. And then I will bake it in a toaster oven at 175 degrees for about 2 to 4 hours, making sure it dries out the windings completely. So that's all rinsed off, and we're good to put it in the oven. Okay, we have the toaster oven preheated to 175, and we'll put this in for 2 to 4 hours. Okay, now we'll take the armature out of the oven. This has been in at 175 degrees for about 4 hours, so it's bone dry. Then I'll take a soft nylon brush and just kind of brush off any flaking varnish on here. Then we'll go ahead and tape it up and put some new varnish on here to get the spots that are missing. Then just use some insulating varnish. That'll protect it from any shorts. And I just use a little Scotch-Brite on the commutator. And it's good to go. And I'm just hitting this with some high-temp aluminum paint. Just a real light dusting. We'll put one more real light coat on like that. It should be good to go. These here will get a semi-gloss black. Okay, we're going to go ahead and solder the field wire onto the coil. These two coils get soldered together. We got to put some insulating wrap on there. And this goes to the main lug on the generator body. So what we'll do is start with this one here. And I'll just use a stainless steel alligator clip or clamp. Kind of clamp these together here. And then we'll go ahead and solder right there. A little bit of, they're both tinned, but we'll put a little bit of flux on there. I do have a huge hot soldering iron, kind of overkill for this, but when we solder this here to the lug of the generator, you need all the heat you can get. Get a good solder joint on there. So we got a good solid solder connection there. To be safe, we could check it with a meter. Let's check that we have continuity. You can also measure the resistance of these coils and make sure they're the same. Let's make sure we're not touching the table. So we have good continuity. Check the resistance. 0.5. This is a cheap meter. You really want to use a good, like, Fluke good meter if you want some quality readings, especially in ohms. Even these connection leads have resistance to them. So you can tell consistency between the two, but you won't get an accurate reading. So now that we have this soldered here, we'll go ahead and take some tape and secure each of these ends. And what I use is this 3M. It's a fiberglass cloth electrical tape. That's what I use to wrap these windings in. It's high temperature. It lasts, should last forever. I use 3/4 inch to wrap the windings. I have some smaller stuff here for just attaching down the ends. You want to make sure you keep the original shape of these too. See, that's pulling a little too tight on there. You don't want to round these out. You want them to lay flat like this, so it lays against the generator. This one's a little too tight. Then we want to go ahead and secure this one here. We're going to insulate these wires here. I just get these from McMaster, and this is a fiberglass high heat insulation. Put that on like that. And one here. So what we'll do is wrap them before we solder them together. You start just wrapping it. It's a little tricky wrapping it. You want to keep it, like I say, flat like this. You don't want to tighten it up into a round shape. There you have it. One wrapped up. Piece goes in there good. This is the piece that actually, when you polarize the generator, that holds the magnetism. Okay, now that we have these all wrapped, we'll go ahead and solder them together. So these here, I just put like a black oxide finish on them. You really don't want to paint these or zinc plate them, because they hold a magnetism when it gets polarized. So I just put a quick simple black oxide on them. You really don't have to put anything on. Just kind of wind these together. These have been soldered before, so they're tinned already. I will put a drop of flux. They're a giant soldering iron. And again, we can check it with a meter. Just check continuity. Continuity from here to here. And resistance too, we can check. Like 1.2, 1.2, 1.3. I have some other coils, and they go between 1.2 and 1.4 on this meter. So you know that there's no shorts or anything between the wires in there. Those wires look like bare copper, but they're actually coated with a varnish, a clear varnish. So when you solder these, if you're not soldering back to where it was soldered before, you have to scrape off the varnish. So these are good to go, ready to get installed. Okay, I have everything laid out to put back together. We're going to start with the back end cap here. This is the cap that goes towards the fan. We're going to start with, there's just a shield that goes down. Actually goes up like this here. and then a spring. This is just a spring washer. That sits down in there. And then our new bearing. And this is actually a shielded bearing that I bought. You could buy a sealed one or a shielded, I guess. The sealed ones just aren't rated for quite as high RPMs, but this isn't going super fast, so you could get away with either one. This is shielded, keep some of that dust and the dust from the brushes and all that gets everywhere. And that's kind of what this shield here, which is in the front too, is for, because the original bearings were open like this, so it kind of shielded them. But this is a more modern version. But we're going to leave the original shield in there because it kind of acts as a spacer too. So, and we'll put, it probably doesn't matter, but we can put the writing out. That just slides in there. And then we have the retaining clip that'll go in. And just make sure that that's sitting in the groove. Kind of push the bearing in to compress that spring washer. And you just make sure it's sitting down in that groove. And it is. That's all good. And then it gets a little spacer. Put that in at the end because that'll fall out now. And now we have to put our new lug that we made. I just made that out of a brass screw. In the end, I just tinned with some solder just to make it look more like the original. That gets a washer, 2 insulators. And then a little insulator goes in there. This you want to keep insulated from the body of the generator. Goes through. It'll be kind of hard to see in here. Another insulator, and then our lug. We'll tighten that down. So we have it well insulated from the body of the generator, and we'll test that with a meter. Get a little wrench to tighten that down. That's a 5mm brass screw. And the wires will get wrapped around there, and then the second nut screwed on there, and then I'm going to solder that whole thing. It's actually on there tighter than the original. So now we'll drop the windings in. And these here are, I think they call these the pole shoes. And what these do is I just blackened these. You don't want to paint these. You could possibly zinc plate them, but I just went with blackening. So this actually is what holds the magnetic charge when you like polarize the generator. And I'll show you how to do that when we get it up and running. But this is actually what holds the magnetic charge. So you don't want like paint or anything on there. And this little groove goes towards the bottom. That's to compensate for this band. It's on the armature. Oh, it's hard to see in there. I should suggest taking pictures of it before you take it all apart. Basically, these go in. I just know that they go in with this green wire, basically even to this new lug we put in. So that's how I positioned them in there, and then you just find the hole. This wire just gets bent down here. And then a little piece of insulating tape will go behind that. See, there's a little piece of tape behind that bare wire. You don't want this to touch. You could put a maybe a shrink tubing over that. Actually, we could probably do that. just to be safe. We'll put a little piece of shrink tubing over this so we soldered it together. Okay, so here's a little piece of heat shrink tubing we'll put on there. See if maybe we can shrink it just from the heat from the soldering iron. Yep. So that's an extra layer of protection there. And these you have to get on super tight, so we have to put them on with our impact the way we took them out. But next we'll solder these together. There's an insulating piece that goes in here. Then we need a piece of, I use 12 gauge wire on here. Later models use 10. If you want to try 10, but you can't get it through the insulator. These I'm just making really long, so we have plenty of room. And again, this is 12 gauge, and it's actually a little bit thicker than original. The original is some kind of metric equivalent. Even the 12 gauge can hardly get through the insulator. And this piece, we'll just put a little loop on here. Piece broke. I say this is going to get soldered also. Okay, I think I have this all set after a bunch of messing around. I have this clamped down on here. You have to make sure you leave room. The screw needs to go down here behind these wires. So we'll go ahead and put some solder on this lug and make sure these are all soldered down good. A little bit of flux. Okay, now we're just going to check continuity. Oh, yeah, it's good. We shouldn't have continuity with the base. So that all checks out. I'll go ahead and put our new brushes in. Got these right here. Yeah, those are good. Now we need to take this to the vise and tighten these down with the impact. I'll take the big impact wrench and our chisel tool. You want to get that on there really tight. Okay, so back at the bench, we have this all tightened up, soldered, ready to go. We'll put our end cap on the armature. Okay, so our spacer's on there now. Drop this in. And there's a little groove in the cap. It fits into a groove in the top of the generator housing. So on the front here, you'll get the new bearing. It just slides in. And then it gets this shield. And then the spacer. So there's the front of the armature ready. And then our cap. And pull our springs back, or our brushes back over the bearing. There we go. And we install our screw here. That makes contact with this part we made to the brush. That's the positive terminal. There's that. And that was a lock washer in there. Sure, armature spins smooth. Now we have to put the main 2 bolts in. And these 2 bolts here that go through the housing, I just black oxide them, and then I put a little bit of clear insulating varnish on them so they're no longer conductive. These are sometimes tricky. They do pass through a bunch of wires, so that's why I like to put the insulating varnish on them. And we forgot the lock washers. Okay, now I have the lock washer on there. All right. And these stick out real far because they also are the mounting points for the fan shroud that goes around here. Spins nice and smooth. So now we'll go ahead and test it. Guess that's the next thing to do before we go too much farther. Now we just have to solder the flag ends on to here that go to the regulator. But we'll go ahead and test it now and see if it spins. And that'll also polarize it. Okay, I have it set up to polarize it in the vise here. We'll jumper this negative, or this is the DF, the field windings. And we'll jumper that just to the ground. And then this here will, positive will go to the positive. Make sure it doesn't touch anything. And then we'll take the ground and we'll just touch the bolt here, the ground. And then it'll be a Festivus miracle if this spins. Oh yeah. Well, that spins real good. You don't want to run it too long. It's not designed to be a motor. It's only a couple seconds. But that's good to go. Real nice. Okay, I have a original housing here with the wires still in it. So I'm going to take a measurement of the wires. and positives 67 millimeters. So we have 67, and it's like 44. So here we'll go 67 right to there roughly. Cut that. And this one comes in at 44. So that's roughly right there. Our regulator mounts right there, so they don't have far to go. That. Here are flag terminals. A little different than the originals, but pretty close. They have to be opened up. So open this one up a little. Here we go. Use our gigantic soldering iron again because it's warmed up. Don't want to wick too much of the solder up into here because I want this to be flexible. All right, we have this good to go. Oh, we'll put the pulley on. I'll have to just guess on how many shims to put in there. We'll put six in the middle and maybe 6 on the outside. Put the Woodruff key in. These have been plated. Shims is what adjusts the tension of the belt. More shims in the middle open this up for a wider belt, or loosen your tension up. Take some shims out to tighten the belt up so it'll ride higher on the pulley. And then we have the back fan shroud we got to put on. Okay, now we'll put the fan shroud backing plate on it. Like that. And it gets this retaining ring. Wave lock washers. And the fan gets a, I don't know what you'd call this, a collar. Key goes in there. Okay, so the collar's on there. This gets shimmed out too. It adjusts the where the fan sits in the fan housing. So again, we're just gonna have to guess on that until we get a housing ready. We'll just guess with 3, or we'll say 2 actually. Put our fan on. And then on the back here is basically a lock washer. It's concave or convex, however you hold it. And that you put on there. And then this bolt here, the collar goes into this groove, so it'll push that lock washer down. And that's 36 millimeter. We'll just hit that with the impact quick. Okay, I got this tightened down. I just hit a little with the impact, not the full torque, because we're going to probably have to adjust the shims to fit the fan housing. So there it is. Full restoration on that. That'll last another 70 years. With those fiberglass windings now in the fiberglass tape, this will hold up for a long time. And this spun really nice when we tested it. So I have a feeling this will put out some good voltage. We'll check that when we get the engine running. But it's all good to go. So thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. This one turned out good. I'm really happy with it. And we'll see you on the next one.